Hot show, live from New York. It's the show that's looking for a branded coffee sponsorship. What do you think about that? Like, first things first,
you gotta run that by us.
I'm going to talk to the sales department. If you own a coffee company, we're going to get a lot of airtime. It's first things first. Today, cut some more guys.
And then,
get even better.
No, and that's why Josh and Sean McDermott needed to try to find a way to make this work. Because there is no immediate benefit. Like, you didn't get cap relief this year. You didn't all of a sudden open up more snaps for, a young position group that, like what the Packers have, where it's like, man, we have more wide receivers than we have, passes available. You didn't even get a return this season.
Nope.
You know what I mean? The draft pick you have comes a year from now. And I'm not trying to act as if the Bills shouldn't be concerned about a year and 2 years and 3 years from now. Of course, you should always be doing some long-term planning. But you get no immediate benefit with significant drawback with the only real. So then why did they do it is, of course, the question. And it's because the benefit they feel is getting Stephon out of the building. Yep. The benefit is the toxicity of the culture or the relationships. And so then I just go to Josh and Sean McDermott. Even if Stephon is the common denominator of the problems from Minnesota to here, he also is right now a person that the Bills need more than he needs the Bills. Because nobody's looking at Stephon Diggs saying, he's in bad shape now. It's worked out great. Yeah. It has worked out great for him, and he gets his money. And because here's the problem, Brew. They don't have any good options. So they are not – I don't believe they have any chance of trading for T. Higgins because I don't think Cincinnati will do it. Maybe they could trade their first-round pick for Brandon Ayuk, but they clearly don't want to add another super expensive salary. Yeah. That's why Poyer and Hyde and Trey White and those guys, they had to get rid of them. Okay. So they'll draft a guy at 28. Well, that's a problem as well because you know that Marvin Harrison, Neighbors, and Odunze are going top 10 or at least top 12. You know those three are gone. So then you're just hoping that you go almost 20 picks of the draft with no receivers taken so you can draft wide receiver 4. Or more likely you end up drafting wide receiver 5 or 6. Like, that's not a path. And I'm not saying it's not doable and you can't get a good player. Yeah. Right, but so they have no great options here, Brew, and they have no immediate replacement. And obviously they're not better. So that's the problem.
The thing is, I'm sure they did try. I mean, I think that's why, or a big reason why Stephon was on the team last year. Because this isn't new. Remember, it began last year and maybe even before that. I mean, the playoffs was obviously the year before. So I think they tried everything they could. And for whatever reason, Stephon he remained a problem. And I do think it was primarily Stephon. I mean, we talked about it when it happened, but if a family member that's close to you tweets something out, then if it's not true or if you really want to shoot it down, you go out and you shoot it down in no uncertain terms. All right? You don't just say, that wasn't me. No, shoot it down. And so I do think they felt that's the only reason. Because like you said, there's no present benefit for it. But look, it sounds silly when he says, are we better now? No. All right, but look, the Bills, I'm not going to kill him. They went for it, Nick. They went for it. All right, they did what Houston is doing.
That part's true.
They did what Cincinnati did. They did what San Francisco's doing.
They did what Kansas City did.
Yeah, yes. When you have a quarterback on his rookie deal who's really good, you go for it. And they went for it, and the problem is that they didn't get a Super Bowl. They didn't even get to a Super Bowl. But after it happens, win or lose, you got to tear it down. And so now they're tearing it down. The good thing for them is they still have Josh Allen. And for all his warts, and really it's one, he's reckless with the football.
Well, it's kind of
but he's still a great quarterback.
Yeah.
He's got more touchdowns than any quarterback, you look at this graphic, since 2019 by a wide margin, by 23. You see Mahomes is second. Now, obviously, that includes rushing touchdowns.
What a graphic. Look at that. It's Mahomes and folks that he would not be in the same room with except for Dak.
Well, remember, hold on, Russ. It's since 2019.
No, I understand.
So Russ is obviously a lot of that Seattle. Kirk Cousins has been prolific.
It's just interesting.
Tell you something, my takeaway.
And Aaron Rodgers is won 2 MVPs since 2019.
No correlation between touchdowns and winning football.
See, I'm just saying. No, y'all can mock it on that. The Bills have been a winning team. They just haven't been able to get over Mount Mahomes.
It is a fair takeaway.
Dak has been a winning team. I don't think it includes playoffs. So Dak is good in the regular season. And Rodgers, you know.
So can I give a different silver lining quickly, Wild?
Yeah, and then I have one too.
Yeah, who is not Brett Favre, who is the quarterback you compared Josh to yesterday? Modern quarterback.
Oh, Cam Newton, yeah. Well, I was saying, if they're going to have him run more and he's going to take more hits.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about that. But
there's some other similarities.
Yes, of course. So this is what Cam went through. They got rid of Steve Smith. And then they ended up bringing in Kelvin Benjamin through a late draft pick. Now, that next year, there's kind of a sweet and sour to this for Bills fans. That very next year, the Panthers were 7-8-1, and Cam took a step back. Now, they did win their division and actually won a playoff game, because the NFC South was brutal then, similar to how it is now.
It's brutal a lot at the time.
The year, and so it was like, hey, we don't need Steve Smith. He's a bit of a headache. Steve Smith ended up going on playing a lot more years. By the way, they brought in Kelvin Benjamin, the late-round draft pick. They had Greg Olsen, a tight end. We know the Bills like their tight end. The next year, Cam and the team took a step back. The year after that was the 15-1 in MVP season. And so
that was Cam's career. It was, you know what I mean? Like every season, it was every other year.
It was a
roller coaster, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so the point that I'm making is the player that, you were saying there's some stylistic similarities to, went through some. Stephen Ruiz pointed this out on Twitter yesterday, and I thought of it. I was like, oh, he's right. And I went and looked. And so the very next year, Cam did suffer significantly. But the year after that, without their big investment wide receiver that year was Ted Ginn, just a deep threat, had the best year of his career.
I like Ted Ginn.
Yeah.
Good run. So here's another glass half full look at it. Joe Brady wants to run. Yeah. Granted, was the OC at LSU, or a passing game coordinator, I think. It's like air it out. Goes to Carolina, doesn't really work. But when he took control of that offense, he decided to throw the ball the least and run the most, and it's worked. Went 7-2. Their rushing percentage was the most in the league at 51. And granted, it's not huge, like the lowest is, 47 or something. But rushing the game first, rushing yards third, rushing TDs third, and Allen had 48 designed runs or sneaks in that span, which is the most of anybody, Brew. So I know you're worried about the injury component of that, but it feels like Joe Brady saw Josh Allen be a gunslinger and have there be a ceiling on this. Like, you know what? Let's just run the ball. This is what you're great at. And they went 7-2 with him. So I assume they're going to try to do that this year. And maybe, it sounds mean, but they didn't need Stephon.
No, I think they saw. I think that's one of the things that convinced them they could move on from Stephon. We always say it. If you're producing, we'll put up with the distractions and the problems. But if you're not, then we won't. And Brady, I'll give Brady credit to Joe Brady. He seems to be the type of guy to adjust to his personnel, because you mentioned LSU, and they would throw the football like this. I think he's making an adjustment and saying, because I don't think he's one of those guys that's always got to run the football.
No, I agree.
But I think he's saying, in this situation, let's do it. And another guy I have compared Josh to a little bit, John Elway. Remember, he won his Super Bowls when they had Terrell Davis later on. So I don't think that's a bad thing. A lot of 12 personnel with the 2 tight ends run the football, and Josh will throw it, but you limit the mistakes that he's going to make in the air.
Yeah.
So I disagree with all of that.
How can you?
So I don't think Joe Brady, I agree with you, he will adjust. I don't think Joe Brady was running the football because it's what he wanted to do. I think it's Joe Brady was running the football because he wanted to be named the full-time offensive coordinator, which he was, and he knows that's what McDermott wants. And I think this
So you think he'll switch it up?
No. I think he is going to keep doing it. I just don't think it is. Right now especially, the best thing the Bills have going for them, warts and all, is Josh Josh Allen. And all of a sudden asking him to be a game manager is not the way
Well,
for
but
them.
I don't think he was a game manager at the end because he's running a lot too.
Right.
And he will throw it.
And that's the other thing that I think is not how you how you use your franchise quarterback to put him in that type of jeopardy. But I want to be very clear here. I do not think the Bills becoming a run-first team is the way through for them. I do think that Bruce's take, which was that Sean McDermott should have been on a hotter seat than he was, I think that has aged very well. Because I think there is an alternate path here where they, even though they had the great end of season, they look at it and they say, you know what, this ain't the guy. We need to bring in an offensive coach that maybe that can salvage the Stephon Diggs relationship. Maybe you bring in, whether it's the Detroit offensive coordinator that everybody loves, whose name is Ben Johnson, or maybe you steal Bobby Sloak away from Houston. Somebody would want to coach Josh on the offensive side. Stephon, then you have a new relationship because evidently he and McDermott were on the same page, and you say we're going to utilize our biggest weapon, and it is my job to do what Dable did, which is get the highs without all the lows. I think they have a defensive-minded, conservative, nervous head coach that wanted to run the ball, Fair. The offensive coordinator wanted to impress him because he's the one to get that was going to name him.
7-2.
I understand.
Like save the season.
No, I know it worked in the short term. I don't think that is long-term what the Bills want to be and their highest upside. I don't think they're going to ever beat the Chiefs by being like, we're going to ground and pound you guys. I don't think that's going to happen.
That was, look, obviously you lose. But that was a good playoff game. I mean, they lost by 3. You know what I mean? And they outplayed the Chiefs for a good chunk of that game.
They also were about to go down 10 in the fourth quarter, and even though that fumble happened, they still lost the game. Like, I don't know. I think that's the wrong approach personally, but it's the approach Sean McDermott wants, and I think it's a mistake.
And Genie loves it.
I love Mangini, but I'd hire him to coach a lot of teams, but not Josh Allen.
Meanwhile, Stephon Diggs took to Instagram to do what, you may ask? Low-key diss Josh Allen again? No. To thank the city of Buffalo. I can't begin to express the amount of love and respect I have for the city of Buffalo. 4 of the best years of my life. The city welcomed me with open arms. I'm forever grateful for you all and the Buffalo Bills organization! Here's Stephon's raw stats the last few years, Brew. Last 6 seasons, still pretty productive. If I mix those up, doesn't seem to be any real fall off. Always had at least, well, I guess he had 6, but basically 8 touchdowns. Are you expecting a monster year from Stephon this year?
No, I'm expecting a good year.
Oh.
I'm expecting a good year. And I know, look, and we have the graphic. When he went from Minnesota, which was his worst season, to his last year there, to his first season with Buffalo, you see he basically doubled his production in terms of receptions and obviously big-time improvement with the yards. So he was great. So some people are expecting that. I think you have a good year. I think monster is too strong because he's certainly the #1 receiver in name. Nico Collins had a really nice year. Nico Collins is bigger than Stephon Diggs, obviously much younger. He's only in his 4th season. About the same speed, or I don't even know if Stephon's as fast as Nico now. They both ran a 4.40 at the combine, and that was a long time ago for Stephon. So my point is, I mean, Nico was almost 17 yards a catch last year. And so I think, I'm not saying Stephon's not going to be #1.
Okay.
But I think they got a lot of weapons. Tank Dell's going to get the football. Nico's going to get the football. You got Joe Mixon running and catching the football. And so,
Schultz, tight end.
Yeah, I think that here's the challenge. Stephon has been he's been 2nd in the league in targets over the last 5 years to Devontae Adams.
Exactly.
He's averaged 160 targets a year.
Still not happy.
Right. So he's not getting, I don't think he gets close to that, Nick,
so
next
I don't
year.
think he gets
so I think he has to make sure he stays cool.
So I do think he's going to have an excellent year. I think it might be the last great year of his career because wide receivers over 30 historically don't fare well. He turns.
And do you think it's probably a little different now? Guys are playing longer or maybe in better
last
shape?
year you look at it, it was like Thielen and Kelsey were the only guys over 32 that were doing much of anything. Devontae Adams, I think, was 32.
I got a graphic here.
Oh, go ahead.
Older wide receivers on their first year. It's DeAndre. It's 31. I think you said 32. So we thought DeAndre was washed adjacent, maybe.
He was good. He's not what he used to be.
I think he is en route to that, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But he had that's a good year.
that's a solid year
100,000.
for,
No quarterback,
quarterback kind of carousel. I think he's going to have a big year. I am very nervous. I watched the Shop, Nick, when Stephon was on, and one of the reasons he said he wanted to leave Minnesota was because he didn't want to be number 2 to Adam Thielen.
Yeah.
And that's what was really getting him upset.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea that he's upset in Buffalo and now going to go to Houston
I
and
think
be
he'll
number
be
2,
the
I
number
think
1 in name.
No, I don't listen. I think Nico Collins has a potential to one day be a true number 1. He is not in today's NFL yet a true number 1. Now Diggs might be on his way out of being a true number 1. The question is, because last year, the first half dozen games, he was as productive as ever, as any stretch of his career, and then out of nowhere it went away. And so it was very clear, and it was well before Joe Brady took over. So, but here's what I think he's going to benefit from quickly. One is he's never had this much talent around him in his time as Buffalo as he does now. In Buffalo, they were just doubling him every play.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that. Every play is not true. It was the Chiefs' strategy when they played him was double him, and that's why Gabe Davis had the monster playoff game that he's still living off of and other things. But so I think you're not going to be able to do that there. I also think, and Josh cooked this up, appreciate it. Josh, we can show you. Deep down the field, last year, CJ was unbelievable, and Josh struggled mightily. And so can Stephon Diggs take advantage of some of that a little bit more? And I do like chip on your shoulder, angry diva wide receiver, at least for a year. Like historically speaking, that can work really well in the short term. And Bruce's point yesterday, that was the Texans have no long-term commitment to him, so if it goes sour, that's fine. But I think he'll get the easiest coverages he's gotten, really solid quarterback play, smart offensive coordinating, which I don't know that he's gotten. So, yeah, I think for a year, he'll be a very, very good weapon.
I buy that. All right, let's check in on Stephon's new home and C.J. Stroud, who is now in some good company, according to Chiefs insider Pete Sweeney. Now, Sweeney put up this tweet of 4 shows, one of them just absolutely great.
We'll miss you, Good Morning Football.
Is all with the same basic questions. Is Watson Mahomes the next QB rivalry, or is it Lamar versus Mahomes, or Allen versus Mahomes, or Burrow versus Mahomes? So Sweeney's like, oh, Stroud's up. So, Brew, do you think this is now Stroud versus Mahomes?
Well, look, I think, as I said yesterday, Kansas City and Baltimore, to me, are the top tier of the AFC. I think Cincinnati and Houston are right there below them. But, and I'm not going to sit here and say C.J. Stroud right now definitely is better than Lamar and Josh and Joe Burrow. Let's not forget about him. But what I will say is he has something in his favor in this type of argument or debate that all of them lack. So he's a better passer than Lamar. We would agree, right? He's an outright better passer than Lamar Jackson. Josh Allen, he's more poised, and he doesn't make the mistakes that Josh Allen makes. C.J. Stroud last year led the league in interception percentage, which was 1.0. I mean, that's a great interception percentage. No, but that's still great. I mean, even he threw 5 last year in 500 attempts. What if he throws 9?
I agree with you, Wilds, that but both could be true. Last year could be the cleanest he ever is with the football, and he still could be less interception prone.
Exactly. He's still not going to be Josh Allen in terms of recklessness. Burrow, let's just face it, he's injury prone, and it's not just, it'd be bad enough if it was just the NFL. In college, he had his share of injuries. All right, so he's got that issue. Stroud doesn't. So even if you want to throw in Justin Herbert, already C.J. Stroud's got a playoff win, and Herbert doesn't. So I think Stroud is showing at this early stage that he's got advantages that all of those other great players, they have a deficiency that he does not have.
Yeah, there are no challengers. I know everyone wants, and we can just put up the graphic and put all 4 of the guys together. Combine them into one Captain Planet-esque, Frankenstein's monster of quarterbacks, and they're still trailing Mahomes in everything but MVPs. And Lamar's carrying the heavy load there all by himself. And I did 40 touchdown seasons to be nice. We could have done 50 touchdown seasons, and of course Mahomes has one of those as well. So here's the deal. I said it before, I will say it again. Nobody gets to be Tom Brady or Peyton Manning when Patrick is both of them. You're going to have to be, you know what those 4 quarterbacks get to choose? Hey, guys, have a draft. Who wants to be Vijay Singh? Who wants to be David Duval? who wants to be Ernie Els and who wants to be Phil Mickelson. Because you're up against Tiger Woods.
Yeah, the left-handed guy will be.
My personal, feelings would be that David Duval should probably be Josh Allen. Showed the highest peak. People thought there was a lot of smoke. People still talk about that 59 round that he had one day. No, it was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Go remember Wilds. He had the great Oakleys on, but never quite reached his potential.
With the golf.
I think that Joe Burrow will be Phil Mickelson.
Okay.
And Ernie Els, you know what? I give that to CJ, and that leaves VJ for Lamar. That's what it'll be. But it is not Brady Manning. It is Gretzky against Messier and Lemieux and others, and it is Tiger against the field. There is no rival.
You could have used Jordan. And who's Barkley? Who's Malone?
That would have been easy.
You could have went there.
Yeah, but why would I use a guy who's not even the best in his own sport historically? That wouldn't make sense.
You definitely couldn't have used LeBron.
Instead,
it would have had to be LeBron and Steph right there. I mean,
you don't even think that.
No,
you
as far as era, LeBron's
you
better than Steph. But it's the era in terms of winning.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about. They both got 4.
Golf. I didn't bring up basketball.
No, I just wonder why, because it would have been a cleaner analogy.
It would have been.
Who's going to be Barkley? Who's going to be Malone? Who's going to be Reggie Miller? Who's going to be, all
that?
No,
but then the list is over. Just those 3 guys.
Not really. Gary Payton, Sean Kemp, a lot of other guys. Clyde Drexler.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys.